Welcome. It's nice humid evening. Thank you so much for coming. In December of 2020, when everything was shut down, Elizabeth and I got our results from our DNA. And we thought we knew what we were, but we were wrong. So my parents are 50-50, and I found out that my mom, who's half Sicilian, I was more than a quarter. So we decided what would it be like if we put together pieces from our heritage.
So this program is inspired by places that we have learned that we have come from, and it's been a really interesting exploration. I learned I have a Jewish great-grandparent, and I did not know that, and so I will be doing a piece in Hebrew this evening. That's just a taste of what we're doing.
So, without further ado, here we go.
The first piece I'll be doing is How Can I Keep From Singing, which was written by Robert Lowry, who was American-born, but his parents immigrated from Ireland. And I learned that I have some Irish genealogy in my past. It has been vaguely confirmed by my family, so I don't really know exactly where it came from, but I appreciate the fact that it was written by somebody who also has roots from Ireland.
My father, Bruce, was from South Dakota, and his mother was 100% Danish, and she was extremely musical, but this would have been in the 1920s when she was growing up, and she could play anything by ear but she had won a radio contest in Sioux Falls and was not allowed to go and be on the radio show. But I am so grateful to her. It gave her exuberance and love for music to my father and to our family. So I'd like to sing a Danish piece, Built on the Rock. The words are written by one of the most prominent Danish thinkers and had a great impact on religious thought, as he was also a democratic reformer and promoter of public education. He was a child of a romantic era, and you will hear this in this piece. The haunting tune promises redemption post our mortal life, written in the Dorian mode.
I know Elizabeth and Liz both have mixes in their ancestry. I don't. Turns out I'm Ukrainian. My babusha and didus on both sides of the family, my maternal and paternal side, are all Ukrainian. We have Evdocha and Mikola Muzyczka on the Muzyczka side, and we have Anhel and Maiullo on my mother's side. There's one thing I wanted to mention about Ukrainians and song. This is the way they figure out life. Ukrainians use their songs to figure out how, to the joy, the sorrow, how to deal with it, loyalty, treachery, everyday life. They talk about their everyday life, and then talk about their life and their mission on earth. This is what they do. They sing. And it's every party, every gathering, church, wherever, Ukrainians sing. So the first piece is actually from a Ukrainian comic opera. It's called Zapovit, Adonai. Say that 10 times fast. I dare you. And it's actually based on a historical event. After Catherine the Great destroyed their fortress, the Cossacks, who were also called Zaporozhci, many of them escaped across the Danube, and they lived in exile, reluctantly, in the Ottoman Empire. So in this opera, the comedy comes from their efforts to adjust to this new home, and from the eccentric behavior of an amorous Turkish sultan. But anyway, in this aria, Oksana, that would be me, is awaiting the arrival of her beloved, and they plan to escape back to Ukraine. That's the end of the track. Okay. Folk songs, Ukrainian folk songs. Again, as I had said, we cover everything. Comedy, sadness, everything. Anyway, during high school and college, my college days, I was one of a trio, a girl trio, and we would go around and we would sing Ukrainian folk songs. My friend Carol, if you're watching, she would play the guitar and we sang. I particularly love this one. It's very silly. She's a very pragmatic young woman, and it's sort of a Jersey, well, let's see, Ukrainian girl meets Jersey girl, let's say. And this particular lighthearted song is a favorite of Ukrainian audiences, and very often you'll hear them singing along. So. Chorni, Ochka, yakterem. Chorni, Ochka, yakterem. Chorni, Ochka, yakterem, yakterem, yakterem. Kolini se moverem, moverem. Chorni, Ochka, yakterem, yakterem, yakterem. Kolini se moverem, moverem. Poverem se vedilu. Poverem se vedilu. Poverem se vedilu, vedilu, vedilu. Mane se nadilu, nadilu. Poverem se vedilu, vedilu, vedilu. Mane se nadilu, nadilu. Dește mene, povedeș. Dește mene, povedeș. Dește mene, povedeș, povedeș, povedeș. Iată că te nadeș, nadeș. Dește mene, povedeș, povedeș, povedeș. Iată că te nadeș, nadeș. Poveduce, jujuju. Poveduce, jujuju. Poveduce, jujuju, jujuju, jujuju. Poveduce, jujuju, zuduju. Poveduce, jujuju, jujuju, jujuju. Poveduce, jujuju, zuduju. Shuzakata, ne svoja. Shuzakata, ne svoja. Shuzakata, ne svoja, ne svoja, ne svoja. Ja dikina svoja, ne tvoja. Shuzakata, ne svoja, ne svoja, ne svoja. Ja dikina tvoja, ne tvoja.
So Elizabeth and I are both English, both of us have English last names. Perryman, so my father, his father Stanley, my grandfather, his family came from England. And one of the most, in my opinion, beautiful hymns written is Jerusalem by the English choral trailblazer Sir Hubert Parry. According to the most common interpretation, this poem suggests the visit from Jesus will create heaven in England, in contrast to the Industrial Revolution satanic mills. So the tune was written later in 1917. My family is, we were many professional musicians and shared music ministry from Christian Science to Greek Orthodox. My dad chose to worship at an Episcopalian church and found great spiritual guidance with his treasured book of common prayer. When I hear and sing this regal music, I feel especially close to him.
My mother's maiden name, her last name is Langham, good English name, so this is honoring my maternal side, and I really did like the heaven being built upon the dark satanic mills of industrialism, so I'll think of this as an environmental anthem.
On England's pleasant pasture.
our most famous composers, Mykola Lysenko, is considered to be the father of modern Ukrainian classical music. He wrote volumes and volumes of art songs and violin things, and there is just tons of stuff. This particular piece is one of his most popular art songs. He paints a musical picture of a very serene evening in Ukraine. The style is very intimate, it's very conversational. It's also a little humorous. One of the stars of the piece is the nightingale, and this particular nightingale likes to interrupt people. Interrupts the mother when she's trying to tell her daughter something, and interrupts the silence of the evening when everything gets quiet. And what does that nightingale sound like? There we go.
Things are seldom what they seem. Skimmed milk masquerades as cream. Or so says William Gilbert of the famous English operatic duo, Gilbert and Sullivan. These two loved each other as much as they hated each other. They were polar opposites as humans, but as lyricist and musician, they were a match of epic England proportion. They shared the same sense of humor, worked hard, and loved the operetta art form. At the last performance, when they were alive, they came on stage from different sides and were not speaking to each other. However, after Sullivan passed, Gilbert claimed he was never the same, but Gilbert is no good without his Sullivan. The story says that Gilbert would pass away years later trying to save someone from drowning. Theirs was the most modern royal romance. Gilbert and Sullivan changed the context and form of musical theater. They showed that subjects like politics and social issues could be addressed in a witty way without sacrificing entertainment values. My first operatic role was in 8th grade. I was Ruth in The Pirates of Penzance. Ruth was almost successful in convincing the dashing young tenor that she was the most beautiful woman anywhere. Lucky for her, he believed her since he'd never seen another woman. Today, I will sing an ingenue role, which is not what I usually sing. The role is from HMS Pinafore. It's Josephine. I always heard my beautiful ingenue mother sing this. It is not my beautiful usual braid and horns role, but it is a song that I have always loved. Sorry her lot.
Taras Shevchenko was Ukraine's most revered poet. He was born into serfdom in 1816, and it wasn't until 1838 that his friends and compatriots were able to buy his freedom. In this poem, which he wrote in 1845, at a time when he thought he was dying, he calls the Ukrainians to the revolution for freedom. This particular melody is by composer Chorni and arranged by Kirill Stitsenko. And this is the one we sang in elementary school.
have reached the German portion of the program. My last name is Honer, the German name. And I thought for the German, I would go old school, like 12th century old school. So we are going to be doing a little Hildegard von Bingen. Hildegard von Bingen was a German Benedictine abbess, a writer, a composer, a philosopher, mystic, visionary, medical writer, and practitioner during the Middle Ages. Basically a role model for women everywhere. I'm also looking forward to singing this particular piece because it is, it's a chant, it's an exaltation of humanity. And I think that it's kind of hard to, I don't know, I feel like we do a lot of, despairing of ourselves and despairing of each other right now, and I understand why, but the last line of this is, how wondrous is that breath that roused humanity to life. So maybe we can still live up to Hildegard von Bingen's vision of us.
My dad, if we go to my mom, my father's name was Bruce. My mom was German and Sicilian. And her mother was Alice Smith was her name. And her family came from Rothenburg, Germany. So I'm presenting to you a song today by one of the great German composers, Johannes Brahms. The name of the piece is Die Mainacht, the Mainacht. This is one of his most beloved songs, one of the great quintessential romantic period song diary creations. An exquisitely crafted nature nocturne. I appreciate about Brahms, he didn't like to practice very much, so I appreciate it. He had a special gift of creating music haunting music, that a melancholy of where we might have been, a love of which the memory is so painful that even the cooing of the doves can turn our heart to sobs. I learned this as one of my first songs I learned before I learned the top 40, which was disco at the time. So this was one of the first songs my dad taught me.
Hello. Hello. I'd like to introduce my piano solo with a little story that I received from my piano teacher at Montclair State College. And his name was Conrad Wolf. And I had just completed my senior recital. And it went great. And so he sat me down and he said, I have to tell you something. So almost as in the beginning of Genesis. In the beginning was Bach. And Bach, as you know, had 21 kids and 2 wives. I have to throw that in. 3 of his sons became famous musicians at the time. Carl Emanuel, Wilhelm Friedel, and Johann Christian. Johann Christian was known as the London Bach. He did what was then considered the first piano recital because the harpsichord was now becoming unfashionable. So, while in London, guess who showed up at his door? Mozart. Okay, so Mozart, and if you hear their music together, you can't tell the difference. So Mozart studied composition with Johann Christian, went back to Vienna, and studied with Joseph Haydn, Franz Haydn. Haydn was also the composition teacher of Beethoven. Beethoven didn't like it. He was too original. Well, Beethoven went on to write piano music and orchestral music, and was also a teacher of piano. Well, he taught a man named Karl Czerny. Karl Czerny was a great pianist, and he taught Franz Liszt. Franz Liszt was associated with the Weimar musicians at the time, Robert Schumann particularly, and Robert Schumann took under his wing Johannes Brahms. Brahms went on with his career and taught a man named Arthur Schnabel, who was also a great pianist. Arthur Schnabel taught my teacher, Conrad Wolf, and Conrad Wolf taught me. Well, he made me appreciate how important it is, the lineage, and to keep it alive. So, I'm also impressed. This piano Eliz and I were looking at under the hood last night, and it is a Hamburg Steinway, which I believe was built around the time Brahms was alive. So we had some real flavor going on there. So I'd like to play for you the Brahms Rhapsody in G minor.
So we're going to Sicily now. My grandfather, Michael, came to the United States when he was young. His parents were an arranged marriage, and my great-grandmother did not like my great-grandfather, and he lived in the basement. So I had to find, because a lot of the Italian is Italy, but I wanted to find I'm from Sicily, so find a Sicilian song. So I found Bellini, who is Sicilian, and the piece is Casta Diva from Norma. It's a moment of stillness and calm before an oncoming war. Norma, the head priestess, leads her people in a mesmerizing prayer to the goddess of the moon. It takes place in a sacred forest during a holy ceremony. At full moon, Norma begs the chaste moon, Casta Diva, goddess, for peace. Singing this piece is as to my voice as eating fruits and vegetables is to my health. It requires legato, range, movement, clarity, breathing, and phrasing. Basically, you put Elizabeth and I together, and it's right there. It's a lifelong song, should I be granted. My mother was a singer, and my grandfather and grandmother always wanted to have a child who could sing, and so that worked out for her. She was singing Chorni when she was 13, and I was not, so.
for the first time on YouTube about, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, maybe 8 weeks, 8 weeks ago. And I just knew I had to sing it. Then it took a while to get it, to find it. So I actually did not get the piece as a PDF until July 5th. Yeah. But I knew I had to sing it. This composition highlights two remarkable Ukrainian women. The composer, Vyshnevyj, who was a 20th century composer. In fact, she just died in 2020. And Lesya Ukrainka, who is the poet, and she was a 19th, 20th century author, feminist, and activist. It really is one of those hauntingly beautiful songs I have ever had the privilege to sing.
Ita
going to totally annoy David is that my grandmother was born in Liverpool, England. And actually, the necklace that I am wearing is my great-grandmother's necklace, and it was purchased in Liverpool, England, and the reason I know that is because the address is stamped in this gnarly ancient box that I have that is just the coolest thing. So if anybody wants to check it out afterwards, I would love to show it to you because I just think it's incredibly cool. This particular piece, I read an article that said that actually there was an argument between Paul McCartney and John Lennon about this piece. Apparently John Lennon did not like it because it featured the lyrics, "Mother Mary came to me," and he thought that sounded too religious and people were going to think it was a religious song, and Paul McCartney said, "No, it's about my mother, her name was actually Mary," and I think it didn't matter. John Lennon was still angry about it, and he should have just taken the advice of the song perhaps. Maestro. No, I'm done. That's it.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she's standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. 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 Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer, let it be. For though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer, let it be. 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 There will be an answer, let it be. There will be an answer, let it be.
West Side Story. I'm sure everyone knows it at this point. It highlights an aspect of the immigrant experience. Immigrants come to a country and they have conflicting sentiments about living there. They may want to be there, and they want to be a part of the new country. They want to adjust to the new customs and new norms, but at the same time, they want to hold on to their own traditions and keep those alive. And they also sometimes need to protect themselves from elements that might be dangerous to them. And so they come into an enclave and kind of stay there and hold themselves to that. And this is what happens sometimes when it doesn't work out that way.
A boy like that will kill your brother. Forget that boy and find another. One of your own kind. Stick to your own kind. A boy like that will give you sorrow. You'll meet another boy tomorrow. One of your own kind. Stick to your own kind. A boy who kills cannot love. A boy who kills has no heart. But he's the boy who gets your love and gets your heart. Very smart, Maria, very smart. A boy like that wants one thing only, and when he's done, he'll leave you lonely. He'll murder your love, he'll murder mine. Just wait and see, just wait, Maria, just wait and see. Stick to your own.
me test results back, I noticed that it said 12% Ashkenazi Jewish. And I thought, that is a full great-grandparent, so what's going on with that? So we thought we'd ask. And my father said, yes, his grandfather, so my great-grandfather, his last name used to be Seidenberg, but he changed it to Curtis. And we don't know why. We can imagine why, but we don't definitively know. I guess I'm pairing it with this particular piece because Gerald Cohen wrote this as a memory for his friend who had passed away and it was meant to be sung at her funeral. And I think that sometimes, when you do genealogy, it's really interesting and fun, but there's also a lot of grieving about things you just never knew and you're not going to know. So I just would like to honor that with this piece.
Adonai roi lo echsar, vinot deji yarbitzei, al menuchot,
next piece may or may not have been written by Rossini. David is Italian, but we are not Italian. Nothing's really for sure, except the fact that we are all a little bit ridiculous, and so is this piece. So enjoy.
Everyone should have flags. Now, I'm actually going to open up the gift to motivate you. If you are a winner, you will receive a misted fan that is already has batteries. It has batteries. And who can't use, hand sanitizer? So you got So we have a little sing-along, so we'll be listening for you of 6 pieces that are from one of these countries. Okay, so we're going to ask you to guess which country they come from. So we will start with Carol of the Bells. Can you find the page in your program? Raise it up when you have it. Yes, Sally is the first one. All right. Call the best one. Okay. Hark how the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say One seems to hear words of the cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, there's some praising, some wailing, hearing while people sing songs of the cheer. Christmas is here. Merry, 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 merry Christmas. Merry, 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 merry Christmas. On they sound, on with an end, their gentle tone to every note. Hark how the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away. Ding dong ding. Yes. All right. Raise the number. We have 6 choices. Great. With your hand, raise up which one you think it is. Raise your hand if you think it's number 1. Okay. Raise your hand if you think it's number 2. Number 3. You are correct, number 3. You have 1 point. And Kenny, will you tell us?
Yes, Carol of Bells.
He's
The music
Ukrainian.
was composed by a Ukrainian composer, Mykola Leontovich, in 1916. It's actually not a Christmas carol, and it's not an American Christmas carol. It's a Ukrainian New Year carol called Sadok. And it was meant to bring in good times ahead, basically. The English words, though, were written by a Ukrainian American named Peter Wilhowsky. And he just thought that it reminded him of handbells, and so he decided to put the words that we know to it.
The famous composer of the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
That's right.
Same guy. And we do, Genya teaches us at the cathedral, we do a Ukrainian version of this with the cathedral choir. The carols sing, if you haven't been to a carol sing, it's really fun. So, all right, number 2. This is a giveaway, right? What number? Raise your hand if you think it's number 6. 5, 4, 3, 2. Yes! All right, it's Brahms, the Brahms lullaby. So who has 2 points so far? All right, honor code here, guys. All right, here we go. And now this next piece is sung by way too young girls. This is my, it won't get on my soapbox, but O mio bambino caro. If you remember Charlotte Church, she's not singing it.
Is it one? It is number one. Italy, the city of Florence, and she's gonna throw herself off the bridge if Daddy doesn't let her marry the tenor. All right, it's Hallelujah chorus time. There are 3 correct possible answers for this. Who has 3 so far? Anybody? Oh, okay. Might have to rock, paper, scissors for this. Okay. All right, Hallelujah chorus. Okay, raise your hand if you think it is Italy. That was one correct answer. It's written in the Italian style. Raise your hand if you think it's Germany. That's another correct answer. Handel was born in Germany. And raise your hand if it's Ukrainian. Raise your hand if you think it's from Canada, the United States, and England. Excellent. Oh, there you go. So England, because that's where he spent most of his life. All right. And personal favorite, right? Cohen. Hallelujah. How many of you know this next piece?
I've heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do you? It goes like this: the 4th, the 5th, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing, hallelujah, 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 it doesn't matter which you heard, the holy or the broken, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Anybody have an idea? Canada. Right, but I would also accept Cohen lived in the United States, but he was originally, his family's from Lithuania, and he was Ashkenazi, but he was born in a Messianic household. So it just shows how cross we are. So Canada, so that should be, who has 5? The showdown! Final one. What's our final song? Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. When we've there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've numberless days to sing God's praise. And when we first begun, and when we first begun.
So where does that song come from? What did young lady right here in the peach?
United States.
What's that?
United States.
That's an incredibly good answer. But
Thank you.
there's but it's not right. The young lady behind you. Yes. Yes. It's
There it
England.
is.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's England.
Excellent.
So tell us.
Yes, and I will tell you why. It was a former British sea captain and enslaver. He was in the Atlantic slave trade. This is John Newton, and he was the author of the words to Amazing Grace. He had a conversion, and he was ordained an Anglican priest. Eventually, became an abolitionist, and it was with his help that Great Britain actually abolished the slave trade in 1807, and then slavery itself in 1833.
Influenced the United States with this song. So, yes. Yeah.
He was in a terrible storm,
Yes.
and he prayed to God that if he survived the storm, he would give up the slave trade.
Wow. That's so great. Thank you so much. Who received 5? Or did anybody get 6? All right, so was just 2 people for 5? Yes? Stand up if you got 5. Yay! All right, good. Big round of applause. Thank you. All right.
My wife doesn't believe me.
Oh, I think this is for. All right. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye. I have to stop this thing. And I have to stop this.